A tough week in Padres world. So Derek had the idea, let's spread some holiday cheer. Something we've done in past years, bringing it back this week, a couple weeks out from Christmas. I'll be off next week. So it'll be either you solo or you and Todd Strain next week. So we figured let's do our Padres holiday wish list as we've done in the past. And I'm sure we'll talk about Otani and other matters, Derek. But
Who?
yeah, it's been a trying week for Padres fans and the franchise, but I hope it's been a good week for you. How are you doing, Derek?
It's been good. I'm not doomsday about this Otani thing. This is, it's a more power to them, more power to the Dodgers for pulling something like this off. They found the loophole in the system, the glitch in the matrix, and we already knew they were going to be doing this as early as last year. So we knew what was coming. Now we just got to figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah, it didn't help the Jung Hoo Lee news as well. So a few
It
things to
actually
touch
hurts
on.
more than the Otani news.
Well, I
Believe it
think
or
it
not.
hurts because of I think the combination of things just makes it a little bit rough. So a few matters to discuss, and we'll talk about what we are hoping for in the holiday season and ahead for the Padres. First things first, thanks to OGs, the sponsor of the On Friar podcast. When you buy an OG's gift card worth $25 or more in store, you can unwrap a custom OG's and Coca-Cola ornament, the perfect gift this season. Sip into the season with style at OG's beginning December 1st. 13 days ago, Derek. When you spend $35 and enjoy an OG's pint, you'll cheers the season with an OG's holiday glass for your collection. So thanks to OG's, all they do for the On Fire podcast and for the NBC7 sports team. All right, it's time for the walk-up music. Good to be with you as always on Friar Podcast, brought to you by NBC7. I'm Darnay Tripp. He's Derek Togerson. I was thinking as the walk-up music was playing, Derek, do you still put together any sort of Christmas or holiday wish list? Because that used to be like a standard in my family, and I can't think of the last time I've done one.
No, there's really not much. And my wife gets so mad at me about this too, because she's like, what do you want for Christmas? I'm like, I'm so well taken care of, during the year. I can't ever think of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets, I guess, a little bit frustrating for people to try and, do stuff. But I'm like, no, I really haven't put together a list of things that I would want. And God, it's been a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just adulthood, have kids, that sort of thing.
Everything focuses on the kids at that point, right? Exactly. You don't want anything. Yeah, everything goes to your kids and your spouse.
And then maybe you want like a nice like chef's knife or like a belt or a vacuum cleaner. It's like more practical things than it used to be. I do keep a note on my phone if I do come across things that I might want, and then if I come here of things that Laura or other families might want, just because I have the worst recall with it. And so, hey, if somebody asks, like, oh yeah, let me consult the notes if it's for me or for somebody else. So that's the handy little trick that I have. But yeah, everybody in the family used to do one and send it to one another and cross things off. But you get older and you have your own kids and families, and whole dynamics change. That's what happens.
No, it really do. I keep the note on there for gift ideas for other people. I should probably start doing the one for myself, because that'll probably save a lot of consternation for other people by the end of the year.
Most notably, Aaron. We don't need Aaron to be dealing with any consternation.
No, exactly. But I mean, for Father's Day, she got me a Blackstone, and like that's all I want to do now is cook on that thing. So
Nice.
like that, I'm like, it's gonna be hard to top that anyway. So why bother?
Yeah. Well, good thing about a gift like that is you can all reap the benefits of that for a good long time.
Exactly.
We'll get to the Padres wish list. We'll start and kind of, you shared your thoughts on Otani. You don't strike me as the type that's just enraged by the deal and the circumventing of the CBT and all these things. We've had a few days. Obviously, the initial report came out, I think, Saturday. Monday, the details. So we've had a few days to chew on it. Where are you at now? I think as we speak, Otani might actually be doing his press conference. But where are you now on just how this whole thing has come together and the implications of it?
Well, it's legal. You know, we can sit in here and cry and whine all we want about how they structured it. The bottom line is Shohei Ohtani wanted to play for a team that he thinks gives him a very good chance to win. He's making 45 million bucks a year off the field with all his endorsements. He didn't feel like he wanted to get paid immediately. He was okay taking less later on down the line. And the collective bargaining agreement, I'm going to mix up CBA and CBT quite a bit here. The CBA says there is no limit to the amount of money you can defer in a baseball contract. And when the Dodgers found that and they talked to Otani about it, they were all good with it. So any team can do this. Every team's not going to do this. Now, the other part of it is many teams don't have the financial resources, this big reservoir they can draw out of in 10 years to start paying somebody, 68 million bucks a year and then still pay their entire, roster on top of it. But if they're able to do it, then it's legal, then, go for it by all means. Let's see if anybody else wants to try and follow suit with this now. So it was interesting. It was kind of a shocker that I think it showed what it does is it makes me smile because it shows you that Shohei is as good of a dude as we all thought he was going to be, right? Like there's a superstar out there that is living up to the win first. Everyone says, oh yeah, I want to win. I want to win. And then Juan Soto's doing press conferences already saying, yeah, it's good to be here for a year. Like he already knows he's not going to be there and he's going to free agency because he's about the money. Shohei's like, dude, I want to win. I don't care. Bring in more. Reminds me like Tom Brady with the Patriots. Like I'm not going to be a top 10 paid quarterback. Bring me guys we can win championships with. It's really nice to actually see that a dude like that still exists, especially at that level, who is the best player in the game.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I did wonder, are other teams going to follow suit? You hear a lot of people say, setting a bad precedent, slippery slope, and all those things. And maybe that's the case. Obviously,
They said the same thing about Deshaun Watson's contract. That's not been the case.
Well, and deferrals have happened, but I don't know, like, when are you going to have a contract that is quite like this? That is 700 million, even if the valuation is 460. Like, it's just not the type of thing that's going to happen. I don't think, like, every offseason, every winter, where a team feels like, okay, we got to give this guy a lot of money, but we got to get creative about the way we do it. If it's a 250, $300 million guy, maybe there's a way of doing it, but I just don't think it's going to create the amount of like uproar that this one did because you're not deferring $680 million. It's just such a massive amount of money. That's what jumps off the page. And to have something that is an equivalent of that, I just don't think it's going to come around very often. And so I do wonder a little bit, when these CBA negotiations come around, is this something that comes up? Are there other instances of this between now and what, the 20s, 27? I don't remember exactly when the
6, 7, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah. When it'll come up again. So that's to be determined. It is just a little, I mean, it's so extreme, like 97% of the contract, $680 million. It's just a little nuts. It also is a little bit weird to me. I get money changes, value changes over times, but that they just have this equation and it's this arbitrary number. And they're like, hey, yeah, it's going to be 46 million a year. Done. You know what I mean? Like that feels a little bit strange. Like, it's still $700 million and using that to kind of soften the blow. But, Jeff Passan was on with Darren earlier this week and, he said, I thought it was going to be 12 years, 600. That gets you to a 50 AAV. And that's pretty close. 10, 46, 12, 50. It's not super far off. And the other thing that you mentioned, I mean, not too many teams are going to be able to pull this sort of thing off, but the Dodgers can't. So it's just a crazy storm of thoughts and opinions and just details, and it's hard to kind of make heads and tails of it. But I guess at the end of the day, you just got to take it. Nothing's going to happen from this standpoint, and then does anybody try and pull something off similarly with another kind of high profile type play? Maybe a Juan Soto in the year. Like, is the teams that are going after Juan Soto, do they structure his contract similarly? I guess that's probably the next in line where you could see something like this.
Yeah, 450, 500 million, something like that for Soto. I guess it'd probably be in the ballpark now, given what we've seen. To answer the question, how often are we going to see contracts like this? My first thought is, how often are we going to see players like this?
No,
because this dude is not like anything we've ever seen before. I mean, the way I look at it is this: you look at his numbers as a pitcher, and he's basically Garrett Cole, and that's $326 million. And you look at his numbers as a hitter, and they're basically Manny Machado, and that's $350 million. So you put that together, it's $672 million, or $676 million. That's right there in the ballpark of what he was probably going to be getting paid anyway. If you're getting a pitcher of that caliber and a hitter of that caliber, you're paying that much. So it makes sense that the total value like that. The deferred money is, I honestly, basically what it is like you're taking off a third, So I guess what they did was looked at, historic inflation numbers, how much the US dollar loses over that much time. You look back at a decade and you can come up with something that's probably pretty close to inflation and devaluation of the dollar and all that kind of stuff. So it's probably pretty close to the ballpark. And I'm pretty sure Shohei is not wondering where his next meal is coming from. So he's going to be okay.
Yeah, I think he'll be just fine. And it's kind of the balance of the valuation and then potentially not having to pay California taxes. So two things that balance out to some degree. To what degree, I don't know. But I think that's part of the idea therein. I was just kind of scrolling Twitter just to see. I saw a couple pictures. I mean, they've got like a big old stage set up. I mean, this is like appears to be a very, very Hollywood type of arrangement for Shohei Ohtani, which you would expect for a player of his caliber and in Los Angeles. This isn't what we usually see in the Padres auditorium in the fourth level of Petco Park. This is a little bit different.
Yeah, you got to roll out the red carpet and pull out all the special effects and bring Christopher Nolan out and do something very special when you're talking about a guy like this.
Yeah. That was what it was, and then if it was Monday or Tuesday, I can't remember the Jung Hoo Lee. I think it was Tuesday. The Jung Hoo Lee news happens, and you're like, oh well, there's another kick to the a guy that there was some excitement, some promise. I mean, even some reporting that the Padres seem to have a leg up on everybody else, and not only do they not get him, he's playing for Bob Melvin and the Giants, and you still have a couple notable vacancies out in the outfield. Now, what was the deal, like 113 or something like that? It was a pretty hefty contract. I mean, I think we were talking about Nightingale saying it might be 90 or so, and ended up going beyond that. Now I don't know how the years stack up to what Nightingale projected, but maybe too rich for some people's blood. What'd you think about it?
It was a lot more than what we expected. And that I think is probably the missing out on Otani factor. Because, the Giants were in big on him. What I saw initially in MLB trade rumors usually pretty good about these kinds of projections. It was like in the ballpark of 5 years and $50 million. And it ballooned to more than double that. So I think that's probably part of, well, we didn't get Otani. We had all this money we were going to spend on him. Now we can probably go and overpay somebody else to do this. And Lee's market just kept on getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the price on kept on going up and up and up. So it doesn't surprise me. And we're going to see that with Yamamoto. We're going to see that with Snell. We're going to see that with Bellinger. We're going to see that with all these guys, because all these teams are quote unquote missing out on some of the bigger name, high profile free agents. If they were in on those guys, then they had that money to spend. And now they've tipped their hand and they know they have that money to spend. So the agents, the Scott Boras's of the world, are going to be going, okay, yeah, we're going to take a nice big chunk of that and throw it at my guy because he's pretty good too. Not exactly a consolation prize.
No, not at all. Here's a look at the scene from Jorge Castillo of LA Times Sports. That gives you an idea of what the Dodgers rolled out for Shohei Ohtani today.
Everybody's wearing suits.
Everybody's wearing suits. Yeah, Friedman, Ohtani. I don't know who the other individuals are up there. I would presume a translator. But yeah, whole gang and as many cameras as you would expect for Shohei Ohtani. So big gathering out there. Yeah, it's and now it's just like, okay, what do they do? What do the Padres do now? And maybe we'll have some ideas in our wish list, but suddenly the ideas are slim, and maybe you do have to think about overpaying. And is it better to have a little sticker shock, or not deal with the costs, but then have such glaring holes in your lineup and on your roster, which is now kind of what they're threatening to do. And it just makes it really interesting. It's unfortunate, Ohtani is what it is. It's kind of a separate deal, but to not get Lee, that was, even if he, the cost was beyond what maybe you were comfortable with. I think having that guy would have at least solidified some things, given you some answers going forward that they're struggling to have.
Jacob Marcy, man. Jacob Marcy's your guy.
I hope so. I would love that. I just find myself thinking, like, there's what you hear from fans, and then there's what you hear from, like, people that are now. I know AJ name dropped him, so that gives you a little bit more optimism. But I wonder if we get ahead of ourselves with some of these prospects, and part of me is worried that a lot of these guys won't be able to contribute in 2024 as much as we would like to think they'll be able to.
Are you insinuating that a guy who's playing in the Mid-American Conference last year is not going to admirably replace Juan Soto in 2024?
Maybe a little bit.
Well, we will see, sir, and your negative Nancy-ness.
Sorry. I forgot the holiday spirit. I forgot that. I think I touched on something along those lines in my my Padres wish list. Should we just get to it? Is there anything else from the last week? You talked about Soto. I talked about Soto.
By the way, you want to really, keep talking about Otani and the Dodgers. Now they're talking to apparently not only Yamamoto but also Josh Hader. So hey, there you go.
And they're in on Glass now, and everybody's worried that they're going to somehow snag Randy Arozarena too. So
I don't know how they could get Arozarena and Glass now. It's God. Randy is the guy I would love to have that guy here so bad, so much. That's that's the one, like the out there, like the pie in the sky, like that's I want the North Star, like Arozarena to be the guy to bring in. That would be so great. I don't even what that's such a way. I don't even have my wish list. It's like I don't even want to touch it for fear of jinxing it.
Also, we speak of consternation. There's some consternation amongst the fan base that, like, there's no coaching staff. Do you care about that? Is that yes. a thing for you?
Coaches recruit players. Players want to play for not just a manager, but a coaching staff. This is a problem.
There's no coaches. We think Ruben Niebla, but we also thought Bob Melvin at one point. So there's that whole grain of salt thing. Like, he mentioned Ruben Niebla, but I don't know if he's been mentioned again. I'm guessing he'll be around, but
he will be around.
No bench coach, no hitting coach. I don't know if we've really heard anything. And so when did they hire Mike Schilt? What day was that? I can't. There's been so much that's happened in the San Diego sports world that I can't. 2 weeks ago, I can't keep things straight. November 21st. Wait a second. That's more than, that's been a few weeks now. So some things need to happen.
Yeah. So you want to go right to actually, that's one of the things on my wish list. And I did all of these based on riffing off of famous holiday songs.
Of course.
So instead of Santa Baby, I have Santa Benji. Just hire freaking Benji Hield, please, to be your bench coach.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. The guy, we're talking about Arozarena, the players love him. Otani loves him. They learn from him. They get better from him. He's going to be a manager in the major leagues at some point. Put another really talented baseball mind who's a good coach, who's respected by the players, who can help you out. Put him on your bench. They already talked to him for the managerial spot. He impressed him. What is taking so long to hire this guy? He's from freaking San Diego. Bring him in and bring him home. Put him on the coaching staff. This is ridiculous at this point.
And maybe there's your 2-for-1 with Randy Arozarena.
There you go.
I love it. Buddies. I wish I had that on my list. Maybe throw in Adrian Gonzalez as the hitting coach. Mm-hmm. Be an all-star staff with Niebla. Then you're cooking. You're cooking for sure. If you have any ideas, make sure, and you're watching the live stream on YouTube, get in the chat. Let us know what you have on your Padres holiday wish list. We'll include that in the episode. Where do I go? I've got so many different angles. Since you mentioned Marcy, if we go back to 2022, a CJ Abrams / Mackenzie Gore type spring from a couple prospects. I didn't get too specific as to who. Obviously, there's some arms. Obviously, there's some position players, like you mentioned. But one or preferably two guys that show up and they rake, they deal, they just look ready, they look the part.
The
And
2019 Fernando Tatis Jr., right?
2019 Fernando Tatis Jr. is another great example of somebody that was just like, okay, he's the guy, and he's not going to let us keep him off the big league roster. They need a couple instances of that this spring, it's looking like. And so to have a couple of those guys that pop, that look ready, that you feel comfortable saying, all right, let's go. I think that would be huge.
I like that a lot. They do need to have somebody, unless they go out and they make some sort of big splashy, more veteran type sign addition, they're going to have to find a couple dudes who can play in the outfield. Jose Azocar is, like I said, he's your rotational late inning guy, and he's the only other guy who's an outfielder on the roster right now, along with Fernando Tatis Jr. So you got to have somebody come up and rip one of those jobs away. Again, unless they go out and get like an Arozarena or something like that, because those spots are going to be had, and they can't have big holes in the lineup, not with the kind of firepower they're going to be facing, and especially the National League West this year.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at the list, it's, we're not talking Salas, we're not talking Snelling, we're not talking Lesko, but Jackson Merrill, Samuel Zavala. Am I saying that? Zavala?
So Zavala, yeah, he was at mostly at Lake Elsinore last year. Young, I watched a few of his games, especially when Salas was playing. He's a little ways away, but he's exciting, twitchy athlete. He's got some pop in that bat. He's going to be good at some point.
I'm looking at guys that are projected 24, 25, and Zavala's 25. Drew Thorpe, newly acquired. I mean, he's the guy if he does what is expected to do, but maybe on a bit near of a timeline. Jairo Iriarte, Adam Mazer, obviously a lot of talk about those two through the course of last season. Martorella, maybe. Graham Pauley, obviously a guy, hit a bunch of homers. Marcy, we've already talked about. So some combination, like two of those guys pop in, I think we'd all feel a little bit better going into the trip to Seoul.
Yeah, absolutely. Jackson Merrill, he had a good spring training last year, especially when a lot of guys were out there playing in the World Baseball Classic. If he can show, Futures game last year was really good at both A-ball and AA. If he can take that next step, he's a little bit early, but if he can do that, that would ease, I think, a lot of fears.
Yeah. All right. What's next on your list?
I'm all about pitching. We need starters here. Need some more of them. So here comes Santa Claus. Here comes Santa Claus. Write down Santa Claus. Shane. Go swing a deal for Shane Bieber. Okay. He's available from the Guardian. I almost said the other one. He's available from the Guardians. Put him again with, as you said, Ruben Niebla. He's the guy who basically turned Shane Bieber into the Cy Young winner in 2020, turned him into one of the most dominant starters in Major League Baseball. He's been down a little bit the last couple of years, had a couple of problems. You put him, again, one more year of arbitration, put him with Niebla again, get that dude to be the frontline starter. He can be up there right with you, Darvish and Joe Musgrove. And then if Michael King is a guy who suddenly becomes your fourth or fifth starter, now you've got real rotational depth. He's established. He gives you innings. He's got great stuff. He's a competitor. It probably isn't going to take a whole heck of a lot to go out and get him either from Cleveland. And you traded with him several times. Go get that dude to add to the rotation. All of a sudden now, the only way the Padres can really combat the Dodgers right now is to have a superior pitching staff, because that's one thing the Dodgers still have not really addressed, especially because Otani can't start in 2024. If you can go out and get a nice, deep, very good pitching staff, you're going to be in the ballpark.
So I like that one. I like the jingle even more. Any concern about rentals? I love
rentals. In fact, I think we should deck the halls with discount lefties. Go out and get James Paxton. Go out and get Hyun-Jin Ryu. Go out and get Alex Wood. These guys who are bouncing back from something, you can get them for a deal, instead of like they did with Lugo last year, like they did with Walker last year. Go out and get guys like that. You want to come in and prove it for 1 year, see if they have anything left in the tank, and put them out there. Maybe they surprise you.
Was that on your list already, or did you just come up with that on the spot?
I just came up with that one just now. Wow, actually,
that's super impressive. I guess of all the years, this might not be the worst because of the guys we just mentioned, the arms that are coming up that are due to arrive in the next year, 2, 3. And so maybe you can get away with having some rental types that perhaps you can coax them into sticking around. But I guess after seeing Snell and Lugo and Waka leave and them be in this position, it makes me a little bit concerned about going down that path. But they need arms. Bieber's a good one. He's got the history with Niebla. So wouldn't be the worst idea. Shout out to our guy, Lauren.
Lauren, what's up, man?
Happy holidays to you as well, Lauren. Appreciate you always being with us. What was I going to say? Oh, presented without comment, Mike Clevenger is in town.
Okay.
I think he's visiting his boys. That's what it sounds like. I don't know.
That's what it sounds like. Yes.
It sounds like a personal trip, not so much a business trip, but just presented without comment. Mike Clevenger's in town.
Hey, you know what? Why not? Bring him back again. See, sure. You know, again, one of those guys you need is exactly the same kind of thing. You need arms. You need somebody just to eat innings, you know, just to go for it. You know, you need to eat the innings somehow.
So let's see. Where do I want to go from here? Jay Groom to be the guy that we expected him to be. Yeah, it's kind of lumped into that prospect group. So I don't know. Yeah. Let's see. How about a wow trade from Preller? Preller's good about surprising us. He's good about, the influx of starters from before the 2021 season, the Tommy Pham, Jay Cronenworth deal. Obviously, outside of the deadline stuff, during these winters, like he's no stranger to pulling off something out of left field. A Rosarena would be wow. yeah, Triple T. You're right.
Are you insinuating that the Juan Soto trade is not wow, Darnay?
No. I guess I'm aside from like the deadline where it's kind of like to be expected. Being that some of the free agent market in some aspects might be drying up, it might force his hand to go down that path. I'll double up here. A wow trade from Preller and good value for Jay Cronenworth. And I was kind of going back and forth between Cronenworth and Ha-Seong Kim. And it's not that I want Cronenworth to go. It's I just really don't want Ha-Seong Kim to go.
Right.
And I would love it if his long-term future was with the San Diego Padres. And I think a lot of people would. And so it's not an anti-Cronenworth thing as much as it is like these guys there's a position there. One seems to be the perfect fit for it. I mean, they both seem to be a good fit for it, but one supplants the other, and it makes it a bit of a clunky fit across the infield, as we saw with Jay Cronenworth just not being a natural fit at first base. And so Preller pulling off like a Preller type deal, which on paper, he typically tends to be the winner, like instant gut reaction. You usually like, okay, feel pretty good about what he pulled off with some of these deals. And maybe that including Jay Cronenworth making the fit a little bit more natural across the infield and addressing a need perhaps in the outfield, maybe at first base in the process.
Well, how about we go with a first base? You ever heard of Christmas in Hollis by Run DMC?
Yes.
Yeah. How about Christmas in Hoskins?
Yeah. Let's
get
go.
Reese Hoskins. Why not? Again, he's one of those guys who you can get low. He tore his ACL last year. He probably can. Well, he needs to come back and show that he's going to be 100% healthy. You can probably get him on like a deal with some opt out or incentives, something along those lines. Give him a year to go back and rake again, and they can go out and get another big major contract. I think he's a guy who the Padres would be very wise in going out and signing, and that gives you some legitimate thump at first base. And then you can take your Cronenworth idea, which I like, and you can take it. He's now superfluous. You just sell, I know, again, you're selling him for 40 cents on the dollar, but still more financial flexibility. Your infield is already kind of stacked up, and he simply doesn't have value at first base. He has plenty of value at second base. Maybe even has value at third base, but maybe even has value in left field. He doesn't have value with that contract at first base. He doesn't give you enough production that you need from a corner infield spot. If he can't play second because Kim is there, then there's really no place on this roster for him. So if you go out and get a guy like Hoskins, you can then take Jake and say, let's just get some spare parts in here somehow, maybe some bench depth.
I think this was the first crossover on our list because I had Hoskins on a prove it deal.
There you
And
go.
I think I saw Jim Bowden a projection for like 1 year and 15 million. Yeah, yeah, give me all that in a heartbeat. Um, Rhys Hoskins, if I'm not mistaken, first 2 career homers at Petco Park. In August of 2017, I was in the building for that one, visiting Laura during our long distance phase, and so there's some history there for Rhys Hoskins, and I think he'd be a great fit. Obviously, a guy with a lot of big league experience or playoff experience, big game experience, and so I think he's just I'm 100% with you on that one. A name that has come up in terms of a trade target is Max Kepler. And so maybe there's kind of the complementary move with Jake Cronenworth. You address the outfield, bring in Kepler, and then you got Hoskins to be your first baseman. And all of a sudden, this lineup it might not be the Dodgers, but there's a lot of teams that would go into the season with that lineup and be very, very excited.
Still a little bit right-hand heavy. But again, I like the idea of Max Kepler. He's a guy who maybe doesn't jump out as a wow factor, but he's just a solid everyday ball player. He's going to do the things that you need done. He's going to do them right. He's going to grind out at bats. He's going to play solid defense. He's just a good glue guy kind of ball player. Exactly the kind of guy that you need. The Padres really didn't have that many of last year.
That's a great point. Well, you want some balance in the lineup, Derek?
You want to find me a lefty?
How about Cody Bellinger on an Ohtani deal? Since he's probably looking
Actually,
at
I had Jingle Bellinger. So there you go.
Perfect. We're lining up nicely. If he's going to get like mid-20s or higher, and, if there's the Ohtani effect and the Jung Hoo Lee effect where teams start to overpay a little bit more, can you manipulate the money in an Ohtani type deal where there are some deferrals that bring the average value down to like 20 or 22 and make it a bit more palatable? You got a lefty. You got a guy that had a really nice bounce back season for the Cubs. He's only 28. I didn't realize
he can play center field.
Only 28. He can play center field. And you know what I don't hate? Everybody says Dodger this, Dodger that. You know what I think would be fun? To have a former Dodger go against Ohtani and the Dodgers, and maybe like that little extra juice and motivation for a guy that that wasn't brought back when he was a free agent, and they said, look, best ball might be behind you. This isn't the 2019 version anymore. Best of luck to you. I don't hate the idea of bringing that guy in. Maybe you have to overpay, but like I said earlier, you need guys at this point. And as we saw with the Ohtani deal, and as we've seen with other contracts, there's ways to manipulate the money to make it a little bit more palatable.
I like Bellinger a lot. I remember we were talking about this time last year. We were saying on this podcast, go sign Cody Bellinger to a 1-year deal. Exactly what we're saying about Rhys Hoskins right now. Go out and give him an opt-out after a year. And one of the reasons was he wants to shove it up the Dodgers' rear end because they just said go away. They didn't even tender him a contract. They did not give him the qualifying offer. They said, we're not interested in you anymore. Go away. Now, I know there are concerns about health. He did miss some time with the Cubs again last year, and he has that injury history. And B, a little bit of soft contact issues. And in Wrigley Field, you can get away with that if the wind's blowing out. If the wind's blowing in, nobody's getting one out anyway. But I think he's a guy you can seriously, kick the tires and roll the dice on because he's from Arizona. He's a West Coast guy. I'm sure he would want to come back to the West Coast, play in a place like San Diego that he knows well and has had some success here with other teams. It makes a lot of sense to bring a guy like that in.
100%. What you got next?
All right. How about, Little Saint Nick by the Beach Boys? You need bullpen help. How about Little Saint Hicks? Jordan Hicks is out there. He throws very, very hard. He has closing experience. If Robert Suarez shows that he can't handle the ninth inning, and he's been at best dicey in that situation, having another guy on staff who has closing ability, who has closing stuff, and who has closing experience would be a very smart move. Jordan Hicks is not going to break the bank. I say you go out and get a dude like that to bring him in here to shore up some of the late inning type situations. That moves Ángel de los Santos another acquisition I like a lot, maybe into the 6th, 7th inning type spot. And now your bullpen's looking like it's got some power arms and some versatility. You can maybe do some mix and match closer type stuff with Mike Shildt. Plus, Shildt had him with the Cardinals. He knows him well. He knows how to deploy him. I think that'd be a very smart move to beef up the bullpen a little bit.
Whenever I think of Jordan Hicks, I think of this. Do you remember this back in 2019?
Tip your cap. Well, this was a nasty.
Oh yeah, Machado. Yep, just made him look silly.
I was very impressed by
like, hey, you got me, kid.
Enough to say you win this one.
Yeah,
tipping his cap to.
You got me, kid.
Whenever he comes up, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I love that. I love that moment. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I like it. I like that a lot. I mean, it's I guess like I said, the stuff is there. You know, he's not terribly expensive. That's one of those that makes a lot of sense. You're paying maybe 7-8 million, something like that, over a 4-year type deal. Go out and get him. Go out and get the high velocity, high octane arm, who's 27 years old, by the way.
Wow. Yeah. Luis Campusano, a breakout season after the breakout season. Like a not just this guy could be but like a full on breakout season, like at a larger scale where, people around baseball are talking about, hey, this Luis Campusano kid, not just to prove, okay, I can handle like most everyday duties, with depending on what they get out of Higashioka. But Luis Campusano to be like the guy that we've been hoping for and expecting for a long time. And I was looking at his projections on Baseball Reference: 10 homers and 267 at bats, 273 average, 767 OPS. Not bad, but like, can we push that to like 20 homers? Drive in like 60 runs, OPS around 8. And he was the one guy, 847 OPS in 163 at bats this season. The one guy above 8. Now, Soto was the only qualified hitter over 8 this season, but OPS plus of 134, like 7 homers in that span. If we can, replicate those numbers, build on those numbers, then you've got like, an all-star caliber type catcher. Given, on top of that, some of the growth that we saw just in terms of his relationship with the staff and managing the game and that sort of thing. So a breakout after the breakout for Luis Campusano.
I like it. And Campy, he's shown the ability, man. He seemed like he really came into his own last year, where some of the pitchers and guys on the staff have maybe not liked throwing to him all that much. Pretty much everybody who worked with him last year, and we saw that in Peoria during spring training, he really made some strong relationships with the pitching staff. Pretty much everybody we talked to and we saw liked throwing to him. Like he really made huge strides in not just his defensive ability behind the plate, but in the way that he interacts with and adjusts to his pitchers. I think he did a fantastic job last year. Really, the sky is the limit for that guy. Staying with the catchers, and I know you just traded for Kyle Higashioka, but we wish you a Gary Christmas. You still need a DH. Gary Sanchez, man, and we've talked about it, bringing that dude back again. I think, and there's a theme forming here, right? Guys who maybe need another year to prove that they're fully back, maybe need another year of doing all this. Gary Sanchez basically gave 70, 80 games to the Padres. Looks like he was all the way back, but you don't fully know yet. So getting him back on a 1-year contract, maybe some 4 years with an opt-out after 2, whatever you might be, send incentives, whatever, put in there, whatever you might want to. It strengthens the catcher room. It gives you a very viable designated hitter, which right now I don't see on this roster. Aside from, hopefully Matt Carpenter figures it out under his old skipper again. That would be fantastic. But it gives you somebody else who can come in who obviously, again, loved in the clubhouse, good glue dude. And he's also got a lot of thunder in that bat, who, oh, by the way, really took to being in San Diego and played very, very well here. You get a talent like that, I would take that in a heartbeat.
No doubt. And I think you make a great point with the DH piece, because that is one of this team's needs. And that's an area now. Manny will likely do some of that early in the season, but projecting forward, it's good to have some options. And we've seen the Padres carry 3 catchers. I mean, that wouldn't be out of the ordinary. And if you're not expecting, look, injuries happen, things happen. If one of them, actually 2 of them, because Campy, you'd feel perfectly comfortable giving him DH days as well.
Yeah.
And so between the 3 of them, balancing between behind the plate, DH, I love Gary Sanchez. After the Yankees trade, part of me was disappointed. Like, oh, does that mean the end of his tenure here? And it probably doesn't have to mean that. And I hope you're thinking along the right lines, because he was a great fit. He, instantly turned things around to a dramatic degree, and gives them something that they missed in just kind of that threat that seems to kind of go to the wayside. They seem to go through stretches where like the pop is gone for whatever reason, and he
Right.
gave them a really nice kind of injection of power through the course of the season once he arrived.
Yeah, remember, fastest player in American League history to 100 home runs. That says something.
I don't necessarily want Jung Hoo Lee to struggle, but and I like Bob Melvin, but I wouldn't mind if like the early season it was cold, just really, really cold. And maybe the atmosphere wasn't great at Giants games. And maybe Jung Hoo Lee is just like scuffling a little bit. And there's some questions there. Like maybe not a great landing for Bob Melvin. Too much has gone the way of the Giants and that marriage. And then they get Jung Hoo Lee. And like, let's not have just like the honeymoon phase. Let's go straight into Bob being like, man, those crowds at Petco are awesome. It's probably 73 degrees and sunny there today. And look at the Padres. They're playing well. Gary Sanchez is raking. Max Kepler, Cody Bellinger, Reese Hoskins. Look at that crew down there. What was I thinking?
Playing fun, playing loose, raking.
Having a good old time.
That would be nice. So basically, you want Bob Melvin to have buyer's remorse, is what you're saying?
Just a little bit. Like, I like Bob. I enjoyed covering him. I don't want him to be miserable, but maybe just some slight longing for the warm, sunny days in San Diego.
I could see that. I'd like it. I would have no trouble with that whatsoever. If they could, well, not because of Bob, but because, just general hatred of the Giants.
Eric says, like Melvin, just threw up in my mouth. Sorry, Eric. Sorry. He's a good guy, but I get it.
Eric, go clean up whatever you just threw up on. You're going to be all right. All right. This is one that I liked a lot because, Mariah Carey is arguably the greatest Christmas song of all time. So all I want for Christmas is you, Darvish, to throw all 11 pitches in one game. All right. Like offensive coordinators in football, like the first 15 plays scripted.
Yeah.
I want you to go out there and be like, I throw 11 different pitches. I've never thrown them all. Here, first 11 pitches are scripted. I'm giving you everything that I have. Like I want it to be like PitchCom doesn't have enough buttons to call all the pitches. He just has to have an understanding with the catcher. Like, the scoreboard in Petco Park in left field. I want it to go like, y'all, I ain't gonna lie, I don't know what the hell that was. 85 miles an hour.
Just like a shrug emoji.
Like they shrug emoji, 85 miles an hour. I would love to see him just unleash everything he's ever even tinkered with in one start, because that would just be fun to watch.
Maybe he does it in Seoul, where there's sure to be a Japanese contingent that would appreciate certainly the show. I love that.
He throws a shuto. He throws everything he's ever even thought about.
Maybe he's cooked up a couple of extras. Maybe that number is like closer to 13 or 15 after this offseason.
That'd be fantastic. I'm all about that.
How about Manny, Tatis, and Bogarts being Manny, Tatis, and Bogarts? Just looking like the back of the baseball card this year.
We don't ask for much. Just be yourselves.
Just be your potential future Hall of Fame selves. Yeah, that's kind of it for that one. Be the guy that everybody expects you to be. Be, the Bogarts that started and ended the season, not the guy in the middle, and the Tatis that had a couple spurts where he's hitting a bunch of homers. Obviously expect the outfield piece to be good. A healthy Manny that, is contributing the way he had. What one incredible was it June? Like he had maybe the best month he's ever had in a Padres uniform, but then the elbow got to him and all that. So those guys just be themselves consistently across the board. Can we avoid like these 1-2 month stretches where they're all like trying to find it and just be them? And I think for the sake of this team, for them to compete and achieve what they want to achieve, those guys just being themselves would be a really, really good start. Not asking for them to all have like 1100 OPS, hit 40 homers. No. Manny, hit your 30. Be like an 850 to 9 OPS type guy. Tatis, somewhere in the 900 OPS range. Can you give me like 35 bombs? Bogarts, can you give me 20 homers? Be a 300 type hitter. Just be consistent like you were in the start of the season. Like that type of thing.
Just win your Silver Slugger awards. Yeah, go out and do what they've done their entire careers. Just go out and give me your production that we're used to and make it consistent. That's I think the biggest part of it. And injury had a lot to do with this. But Tatis would go through stretches. I think that was more, upstairs with him than it was anything physical, trying to come back and prove that it wasn't the performance enhancers, trying to come back and prove that he was really the last guy, or really the guy that we wanted to, we had seen all those years. He seemed like he was just pressing a lot and not having fun. If he just has fun and does what he can do, he's a hell of a baseball player. Manny was hot. Bogarts was hurt. Bogarts was hot. Manny was hurt. Mm-hmm. Just getting everybody hot and going at the same time would be a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, Soto was lost for a month. You make a great point. They should all be all-stars, right? Like, or at least in the all-star conversation, and maybe one of them finish like top 5 in MVP voting, because for the most part, it's like Manny and Tatis, between the two of them, like there was a stretch of years where one of them's in the MVP discussion. Just like one of them kind of have that type of year, but across the board, just be your normal, like all-star type Silver Slugger selves.
I like that. How about this? Between those three guys, Manny, Toddy, and Xander, 100 home runs. 33 and a third apiece.
Yeah.
If you can get 100 bombs out of those three guys, your offense is going to be pretty darn good.
20 for Bogarts, 30 for Manny, 50 for Tatis. I love that.
Done.
Eric
done
says,
and done.
Eric says, Santa, please. Michael King, healthy. Yeah. Knock on wood there. 180 innings. Breakout Cy Young finalist. One time. Joe Yu, 150 innings pitched as well.
Yep. That'll work. That'll work. You got to replace like 700 innings or something you got to replace.
Yeah.
After with all the defections.
And you saw Seth Lugo make that jump. I'm a lot of curiosity about like how many innings he could throw. And he's, that's a nice little blueprint for them to work on from Lugo now to another pitcher coming from New York that's kind of got that same type of mindset. So we'll see.
Well, how about the last one that I had here, because this is all holidays. How about a guy who gave you, 100 plus of those innings last year, the Hana Waka song. Bring Michael Waka back. We love Michael Waka here.
Yeah.
He was really fun to talk to. He was he was honest, outspoken. When he needed to be. Plus, in the month of May, he was arguably the best starting pitcher in the entire National League before some injuries got to him. He's very good at the end of the year as well. Bringing that dude back in, I would have no problems whatsoever. In fact, I would even endorse bringing him like that. 24 starts, he had a 4.1 WAR. I like him. And again, if he's your 4th or 5th starting pitcher, you've got legitimate length in that rotation, and that would make the Padres the envy of a lot of teams in baseball.
Spotrac has his calculated market value at $18 million. So roughly like 3 years, 54. Akin to Ross Stripling. Oh, that's low on the lower end. Mikolas 355, Gosman 5110. That was 22 average. So probably not on that level, but you're gonna have to fill out this roster. So they're gonna have to overpay for somebody. And if you don't love giving him 18, like somebody else probably will. And he's been here, seemed to enjoy it. Good locker room presence, and was really, really good. And seems to kind of know who he is and know how to kind of go about his business. That didn't seem like a fluke coming off of the stuff that he had kind of unlocked. What was in Boston or Tampa, before he got here. And if you look at like Drew Thorpe maybe seems to be kind of a similar mold, a guy that doesn't have like crazy velocity, like maybe 92, 93, but it's all about like location and pitch mix. And so maybe not the worst thing to have a guy like Michael Wacha around a Drew Thorpe to kind of give an idea of like, okay, this is how you can succeed at this level.
To mentor him a little bit. Yeah, to tell you what, his off speed stuff is tremendous. The changeup is like, and I do not say this often, like it could get to Trevor Hoffman level changeup. It's that good. His breaking stuff is really good. The fastball worries me because, as you said, it's not, elite velocity. And he does find a lot of the strike zone with us sometimes, which works against single A guys. It can even work against double A guys. It's not going to work at Dodger Stadium. So if he can figure out how to locate that a little bit better, he's going to be really. And remember, he went to Cal Poly as a two-way guy. He's athletic as can be, so he can repeat that. I'm not worried about the whole delivery repeating thing. If he can figure out a little bit better command of the fastball, he gets outs. I don't think he'll have massive strikeout numbers because of that, lack of elite velocity. But he's a dude who can get you a lot of outs, work you a lot of innings, get deep into games, and just win you a lot of baseball games. So if he can get that fastball figured out, I think he's going to be really good. The guy actually I like in this maybe is the biggest project kind is Vasquez. Randy Vasquez has some stuff, man. He made his big league debut against the Padres, and I watched that game. I was going, who is this guy? I mean, and the Yankees, as you know, like they got the gas station. They send all these guys to their pitching lab out there, and they figure out how to turn these guys into legitimate arms. For some reason, the Yankees have had trouble developing position players aside from Aaron Judge. Their arms, though, that was the right organization to trade with because they develop these dudes and they get good fast.
All right, we got about 30 seconds here. Last one for me. I just want to get a good carne asada burrito at Petco Park. I feel like I can't just get a good down and dirty carne asada burrito at Petco Park. So can we do that? Our guy Rafa says the three wise men bring frankincense and war. He's coming for your belt, Derek. Derek, you win this one. It's not even it's a no contest.
What about the gold?
You win the Padres wish list. Hats off to you. I gotta come correct next year. Well done by you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everybody. Appreciate you being with us all year. And I hope you and yours have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. See you guys next time.